Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Cohen, I've been hearing your name over the past 48 hours, not just on Political Beatdown. There's been a lot of news, obviously, with the New York Attorney General civil fraud case starting. The most recent piece of breaking news, and it's quite horrifying. During day 2 of trial, what it appears that happened is Donald Trump attacked, while testimony was taking place, the law clerk of Judge Engoron. We're not going to post her photo here or put her name up, but he posted it on his social media platform with a link to her Instagram account and basically said that she was Chuck Schumer's girlfriend. Chuck Schumer's happily married for 40 years, defamed her there, and then it basically had all of his people, go over there, attack her, harass her. Judge Engoron issued a gag order. I mean, we're talking about a civil case. The judge had to issue a gag order during the lunch break. Donald Trump was leaving, and then Engoron called him back into chambers. Donald Trump took down the post, and then Engoron says, "I take this very seriously, all threats against my staff." What was supposed to happen today was we had Donald Bender, Trump's outside accountant from Mazars, former, was testifying, just going through the financials, and Donald Trump could not control himself. He couldn't handle himself in a courtroom. So he just started threatening people. And we've seen that conduct throughout. Started off by showing up on day 1, threatening Judge Engoron. He called for Judge Engoron to be arrested. He attacked New York Attorney General Letitia James.
He called her a racist because she's a black woman. He said the same thing about Fani Willis, the DA in Georgia. You also have the lunatic Jack Smith, the special counsel. This is the problem with Donald Trump. This is the problem.
And I want to talk to you. I don't know how much you're able to share or not share. Obviously, you're a witness in the case, so we, of course, want to respect the boundaries that exist right there. Portions of your deposition were apparently released. I did a video on that. I saw the video depositions of Donald Trump where he said that he doesn't know about GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And he said in the video deposition that it was Weisselberg who's the one who handles GAAP. Weisselberg's not a CPA. He's the CFO who's not a CPA. Says he doesn't know what generally accepted accounting principles are. Then you had Don Jr., who was saying that other than knowing that they're generally accepted, he doesn't know what GAAP is. Then you had Eric Trump stating that he doesn't believe he's looked at statement of financial conditions. And then we had the very credible deposition testimony that you gave in the video that I did. I contrasted all of these things. And I was just telling the people, I was just like, look, the reason that Donald Trump is doing what he does is because look when he's under oath, how he behaves and how he acts. And when asked very simple questions that anybody who's a CFO would know generally accepting accounting principles. If you run the business like Trump said Eric did, you would know your statement of financial conditions. And again, I want to make sure everybody knows there are boundaries here, of course, what you can and can't say, but I want to get your reaction as much as you can tell us, Cohen, about what's been going down.
So clearly, I've been receiving hundreds of phone calls and messages from journalists that are there over at 60 Center Street. That's the courthouse where Judge Engoron is presiding upon. The crazy thing is yesterday, the very first day, all of a sudden, what ends up happening? They end up, as Ben said, and Salty, if you have that video, that'd be great just to show the brigaders. The crazy thing is they put up, and I'm talking about the Attorney General, the prosecutors, put up the videoed deposition of me from about 6 months ago, something that I had spoken to, on Political Beatdown when I received the summons in order, the non-party witness summons. This deposition is part of the death touch. It's the death penalty to the Trump organization and to Donald. You see, the problem is when they're asking Don Jr., Eric, Donald, Weisselberg, when they're asking any of these folks questions during these depositions, they don't want to give the answer. And the reason that they don't want to give the answer is because any answer that they give can put them in additional legal jeopardy, more so than what they may even potentially be in. It's exactly why Donald doesn't want or didn't want to appear for the deposition in the $500 million frivolous lawsuit that he brought against me in the Southern District of Miami. And so he's now forced to sit this week at the courthouse, despite he wants to do 1,000 other things. The last place in the world he wants to be is in that courthouse, thinking he's going to stare down Judge Engoron, he's going to stare down Tish James, and it means anything. It's almost like, back in 4th grade or 5th grade, you have an argument with someone and you're giving them mean looks the whole time. I mean, this guy is truly an absolute baby. They turn around and they tell him, you cannot, I guarantee you his lawyers turned around and said to him, you cannot say these things about the judge. You cannot say these things about the prosecutors. You cannot say these things about Attorney General Tish James. Certainly, they never expected that he was going to be saying or doing the things that he did against a law clerk. So now it's interesting to see what, if anything, these 3 lawyers are going to do in order to curb him, because the judge has issued a gag order. He is now prevented from doing this sort of bullshit again. And if he does, well, then again, it's now going to be up to Judge Engoron to decide what the penalty is going to be for that. Will it be a monetary penalty? I don't think Trump even cares. Why? Because he knows that Engoron's case that he is presiding over is the death penalty to the Trump Corporation. So what will be left? Who the hell knows? So does he care, I guess, whether or not that they hit him with additional penalties and fines? Well, he should, but maybe he doesn't, because he's just a man baby. And that's the problem here. He has no regard for the law. He has no regard for process. He has no regard for anyone. And you may remember yesterday, for a very brief second, Donald came out and he turned around and he said, at the end of the hearing today, all of a sudden, Engoron made a statement that validates his point that 80% of the case has been decided. Well, that's not true. And the first thing Engoron did this morning, the very first thing he did is he corrected the record. And he said that what Donald said, and then what he brought out Cliff Robert, right, who's no legal genius, I promise you that. He brought out Cliff Robert to turn around and to espouse the same lies and the same misinformation and disinformation as he was spewing. That the statement that Engoron made does not get rid of 80% of the claims. So Engoron felt it necessary in order to correct the record this morning. There is so much going on right now in our political lives, the lives of America, that it is really hard, Ben, for us to figure out just which needs to come first.
Well, I want to start with New York Attorney General, because right now on the Meidas channel as well, we've got the votes on the motion to vacate. That was a surprise that this is even happening over the past 24 to 48 hours. The votes being taken right now. We're going to have that audience come here, and it looks like the motion to vacate is going to pass. So I want to be able to report that here first on Beatdown when that happens. That hasn't happened yet. Talking about the New York Attorney General case, yeah, I mean, it's just lie after lie. In a case involving inflating numbers, right? Donald Trump goes out, takes what the judge says and then lies to all the right-wing media, which publish it. And by the way, legacy media covers it as well, and says 80% of the case has now been dismissed as a result of what the judge just said about the statute of limitations. And Donald Trump went from earlier in the day attacking the judge, calling for Judge Engoron to be indicted, calling for Judge Engoron to be arrested, disbarred, to saying, you know what, he made a very reasonable ruling there at the end. And I said immediately, because you and I have been following the appellate division and what they're saying, the First Department, and like, these issues have been addressed. Like, this isn't confusing, complicated stuff, right? This is where a decision in June reached by the appellate division overturned Engoron on certain limited issues. And that's where Ivanka Trump was dismissed from the case.
Mhm.
But what was not dismissed was the Trump organization, Donald Trump and his adult kids, because Donald Trump's argument is that for purposes of statute of limitations, the date a loan transaction closed is when the statute of limitations should start. And what the court has said and what common sense says is no, when the fraud is committed, that's when the statute of limitation occurs, because that's when the injury takes place. So, for example, if you all bought a house in 2011 and then used the mortgage that you got in 2011 to commit a fraud in, let's say, 2022, Donald Trump's theory about the statute of limitations is it's not the fraud in 2022. You go back to when the mortgage was put on the house in 2011, and Judge Engoron's previously stated, and we've covered this, that's why follow Beatdown, that is like a very bizarre interpretation of statute of limitations and would have this very strange, like, reversionary view of statute of limitations that would disqualify like every fraud case, because it's when the fraud is committed. So the case day two, Engoron says, no, the case isn't gutted. The case is the same it's always has been.
So this
It's when the
morning,
fraud was
Ben,
committed.
what ends up happening is you have Donald Bender, who is the accountant, and he is a CPA, the account representative for the Trump Corporation with Meiselas. That's the accounting firm that was handling it. And again, my name gets invoked in terms of who he maintained relationships with, which is why I find it so interesting and odd when you have some of these pundits. And look, Ben and I talk about this all the time. Why is Political Beatdown? Why is MeidasTouch Network the right place to come to get your info? Because there is no misinformation. And I'm not going to say anything to you unless I know it to be factually accurate. I can't tell you the number of pundits, and it doesn't make a difference which station it is. It doesn't matter if it's Fox, Newsmax, OAN, CNN, or even MSNBC, where some of these pundits, they just need to answer the question, feeling that if they don't answer the question, one of two things happens. Either they lose credibility because they're supposed to know everything, or they don't get called back, which they want neither of. So the other day, I'm listening to these two pundits talking about me and saying, well, I may not make a great witness for the Attorney General. Let me be very clear, Brigaders. I am the witness for the New York Attorney General. I don't have to go back and show you the clip where she acknowledges the whole thing basically started from my own testimony. The documents, how do they know what documents I provided to the Attorney General? How do they know the testimony that I provided to the Attorney General that they built this case on over time? They don't. All right. Now, that doesn't mean that Trump or the Trump Corporation is guilty. There is a presumption of innocence in this country. Now, do I think he's guilty? Yeah, I do. And I think that's the way Engoron will find it as well. The question is, he was already found guilty on the first count. The question that remains is, what are the damages? How much? That's the $1 million question. And Salty, if you have that clip, the one from the New York Post that came out, it explains everything incredibly well. It's terse, to the point. They took my deposition for over 7+ hours. That deposition does not benefit the defense. It promotes the prosecution, but it does not benefit the defense. And the funny thing is, the third-party subpoena of me came from the defense, which just goes to show you how incompetent they actually are.
I think we are moments away from being able to announce that Kevin McCarthy, it is official right now. I have word. The motion to vacate has officially passed. Kevin McCarthy has now been removed as Speaker of the House. The just happened moments ago. It is official. 8 Republicans against Kevin McCarthy. So we will be keeping you updated there. We will be sending the audience. And by the way, Cohen, right now we have Beatdown and our live coverage of what's going down on the motion to vacate.
Let me hear the numbers, baby.
That are both the top videos of all of YouTube right now. But here's what I want to show our brigaders. Before I show your deposition, I want to show, because I want them to see that how different yours is from the others. So in connection, when a case goes to trial, a lot of evidence remains sealed until it goes to trial, then it gets released. That's why we have these deposition testimonies, video depositions that are now made available to us. So the first one I want to show you is Donald Trump. And in this deposition, Trump says that Weisselberg is the one who knows about generally accepted accounting principles. Play this clip.
To meet your obligation here of presenting the information in accordance with GAAP, was Alan Weisselberg responsible for that?
Object to the form.
I would say yes.
Okay, well, what does Alan Weisselberg have to say about that? Play the deposition of Weisselberg.
If I said the phrase GAAP, G-A-A-P, are you familiar with that acronym?
I've heard of that, yes.
Okay. Tell me everything you know about GAAP. What is GAAP?
Generally accepted accounting principles. I don't know what's in GAAP. I never took the CPA exam.
Okay.
And never studied for it. So I don't know all the various components of what GAAP is.
Are there any components you know about what GAAP is?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
I got some questions I want to ask you there, Cohen. But before doing that, let's see. Does Eric Trump know anything about the statement of financial conditions? Because in Donald Trump's deposition, Donald Trump said over the past 6 years, Eric was in charge of the statement of financial conditions. So, Eric Trump, can you tell us about the statement of financial conditions? Play the clip.
I don't remember a video conference in 2021 talking about the statement of financial condition. Did I mean, maybe you could show me something, but again, I don't think I ever signed a statement of financial condition. I don't, I've done a lot to try and jog my memory, and I simply can't, because I don't think I've ever had any involvement in the statement of financial condition, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, well, Don Jr., you went to Wharton, Don Jr. You must know what generally accepted accounting principles are, right? Play the clip.
Do you have any familiarity with an acronym GAAP, G-A-A-P?
Generally accepted accounting principles, yes.
Okay. How did you become familiar with that acronym?
Probably in Accounting 101 at Wharton.
Okay. What do they teach you about generally accepted accounting principles in Wharton?
Well, I'm not an accountant, but that they are generally accepted.
Anything else?
That's pretty much what I remember from Accounting 101. So.
Have you told me everything you know about GAAP?
Basically. I'm sure I could come up with some creative stuff to kill time, but I'd be doing neither of us a favor in terms of educating ourselves.
Okay, the attorney asking him those questions, though, is great. She's like laughing in his face and kind of mocking him. And he thinks she's like flirting with him because he's a malignant narcissist like his father. Yeah, I don't know anything about GAAP. I mean, okay, well, y'all signed certifications saying that this conformed with generally accepted accounting principles. And here's the thing, Cohen, what I just showed going through all of that is ridiculous. And now I want to compare that, though, to the deposition of yours that was released. So play the portion of Cohen's. You're welcome. Play the portion of Cohen. How
did the Trump organization value an asset, let's call it Seven Springs. How would the Trump organization value that asset for the SOFC?
For what year?
2000. I mean, it's a general question. It's frankly not per year. It's
Okay.
they have a process. What was the process?
The goal was to use each of the assets and increase its value in order to get to the end result number. It was basically backing in numbers to each of the asset classes in order to attain the number that Mr. Trump wanted.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is there was a number for Seven Springs, for instance. Let's use Seven Springs as an example. And you had to back into that number?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So
What I'm saying, so Mr. Trump would call Alan and I into the office, and let's say it said he was worth $6 billion. Well, he wanted to be higher on the Forbes list. And he then said, I'm actually not worth $6 billion. I'm worth 7. In fact, I think it's actually now worth 8 with everything that's going on. Alan and I were tasked with taking the assets, increasing each of those asset classes in order to accommodate that $8 billion number.
Okay.
Michael Cohen, that was your deposition just released. As viewers start arriving here who were watching the other proceedings on the MeidasTouch network, it is official. Kevin McCarthy is no longer the Speaker of the House. The motion to vacate was just ruled on, and McCarthy has lost the motion to vacate. There's going to now be a whole host of proceedings there to figure out who the next speaker is going to be. We're going to be covering that here on Political Beatdown, of course. But for those watching right now, we have a very rare ability to speak with Michael Cohen, my co-host, who I couldn't be prouder of as I'm watching what's going on in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. We just went through the different depositions, including Michael Cohen, your deposition. And, I remember when you sat for that deposition, you weren't able to really talk about it. You mentioned that Alina Habba was the one who was asking you the questions. But to see your deposition where you provide facts and data and you come with receipts, right? Here are the documents.
Which Ben goes directly to what I had just said about these pundits on these other stations. These pundits, well, he's not really going to be a good witness for the attorney general because, he doesn't have credibility because he doesn't, he wasn't there. And I'm saying to myself, how do they know I wasn't there? If they listened to this 9-hour or 8-hour deposition or 7-hour, whatever, I don't even remember how long it was. All I remember is it was all day. It was the maximum that they're allowed to keep you. If, in fact, that they watched it, they would understand. No different than when I did the House Oversight Committee hearing live. That no different. I came with the receipts. I came with the documentary evidence as well as the testimony that was corroborated by others. Today, as I was stating, Donald Bender from Mazars invoked my name yet again, and I'm certain that the invocation of my name was to corroborate certain information that the Attorney General is putting forth in order to be successful in the outcome of this specific part of the case. And that, again, is for the damages, to show the liability's already been established, but to show damages. This is not a good position for Trump to be in. This deposition is very harmful to their position and to their legal point. The part of this that to me is confounding is the fact that they, again, were the ones that called me knowing the information that I had. And that's based on Donald's arrogance. It's the same arrogance that Donald Trump employs when he starts to go after the clerk of the judge. And now he has a gag order. Again, what the judge will do, when he violates it. There's no question here. If, right, a normal person would turn around and say, all right, I won't do it again. Not Donald. You tell him you can't do this, especially using that 4-letter word, can't. That's, to him, it's a challenge. And the challenge is, how far can he push the line before which the judge actually has to act? And then he's going to try to make that into an issue, claiming that the judge is a Trump hater and that as a result, the judge should be recused. I mean, he's asked for every judge except for Eileen Cannon to be recused. They are all racists. They're all anti-Trumpers. They're all just left-wing Democrats. They're all radicals and they're rogue and they should all be disbarred. That's Donald Trump. And this is a real problem. We cannot operate as a country. We can't operate as a society when you have a former president of the United States whipping up and gaslighting the Department of Justice. And you all know this. I don't have a lot of love for the DOJ as an institution. I will turn around and say that the vast majority, the bulk of prosecutors and DOJ employees are really good people that want to do their job. The problem is the system is no good. The prosecutors, especially this entire Southern District of New York, they are out of control. Trump knows that, not against him, but like what he told them to do against me. So instead, what does he do? He projects and he makes the claims that everyone is against him. Joe Biden is against him. The entire Biden administration is against him. The Department of Justice under Biden is against him. Everybody's against him. He's the victim. Poor diaper Donald.
You know, when Donald Trump attacking the judge, I want to show that clip in just one moment. But first, I want to show the vote right now from the speakership. If we have the graphic, there's the final vote, folks. We can officially confirm that the House has voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. 8 Republicans and all Democrats present voted to oust McCarthy after just 269 days as Speaker. 216 to 210. The House once again is in a state of chaos. I want to show you right now. We're going to have more on that in just a bit. But here's what Donald Trump's been doing each and every day of trial so far. Here he is threatening the judge, threatening to disbar the judge, threatening that the judge should be indicted. Play this clip.
This is a judge that should be disbarred. This is a judge that should be out of office. This is a judge that some people say could be charged criminally for what he's doing. He's interfering with an election, and it's a disgrace. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trump, why do you want to be?
You know, he's doing that. Cohen, he's posting, I don't know if we have this photo, posting photos of him with Jesus. Like, there's a photo of him with Jesus next to him and saying this is the most accurate court sketch of all time. Cohen, this is not normal behavior. And to me, what's going on the House floor is inextricably intertwined to what is going on in the floor of the courthouse in New York, because the same party that has made itself in the image of a cult leader posting photos of himself next to Jesus is the party in the House of Representatives, the MAGA Republicans, that can't govern. And frankly, how can we expect them to if they look up to that guy, Michael Cohen?
Yeah, I don't get it either, Ben. And that's why on every single show, Ben and we constantly beseech each and every one of our brigaders to turn around and to ensure that they are fully registered under the Democratic Party, that they make sure that their neighbors, their friends, their family, anybody that they know, that they're properly registered for the 2024 election, and that they get out and they actually do vote. Could you imagine if we have that blue tsunami that I expect us to have? Could you imagine what happens now to the MAGA cult? That dies. It's the only thing that can help to kill Trumpism, because by doing so, you now stifle the comments of the Matt Gaetzes, the Marjorie Toilet Greens, the Lauren Boeberts, and so on. You stifle them, and they no longer have any power. You don't have Jim Jordan. I mean, could you imagine this shit? Jim Jordan is the chair of the House Oversight Committee, the seat that, God rest his soul, Elijah Cummings had. You put the two of them together side by side, it's like a Rembrandt versus some, park, painter. This is an absolute travesty that you have people like him representing the United States of America. It is an embarrassment. These people are an embarrassment. And let me tell you something as it relates to what just happened with Kevin McCarthy. This is a real problem, not just for the Republicans. What does it show? It shows for Republicans that they don't have their shit in order. Their house is a complete wreck. They now had the speaker, after 15, 16 tries, ultimately becomes speaker. And what is he now? Boom, out. Okay. They now need to find somebody who's going to take his place. And the question that I would ask each and every one of you, name one person, name one Republican who has the confidence of the two different factions of the GOP. You have the far right, and then you have the centrists. You have that group of, like 10 or 12 that are so off the wall that they are their own group. And they have the ability, based upon the numbers, to stop any one specific individual from coming in. And if they try to go far right, MAGA, well, you have 90% of the GOP saying that's not going to happen. And let's not forget, every Democrat is going to vote against it. So there is a real possibility that there will not be a speaker. I mean, this is crazy. The speaker, as a little historical note, is number 3 in line to succession: president, vice president, speaker. We may not have a speaker because they will never be able to find somebody that will appease the right and the center. And so this is a real problem. How do you effectuate it? How do you get anything done if, in fact, you don't have a speaker? This is really difficult. It's really hard to believe that this is where the United States of America is. And the reason that we're here is because of Trumpism and MAGA mania.
Here's Kevin McCarthy from just moments ago after he lost the vote and the motion to vacate was granted. Play this clip. Folks, this was big breaking news. Again, the House has voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Chaos in the House, chaos at trial in the New York Attorney General's case, as a gag order was just placed on Donald Trump after he threatened the judge's law clerk. I still have some more questions for you, Michael Cohen, about that case. You know a lot about it. And for everybody who's watching right now, if you ever wanted to meet Michael Cohen, interact directly with Michael Cohen, support the growth of this show, go to patreon.com/political beatdown. At least once a month, Michael Cohen meets you all on a Zoom. The last one was great. It's patreon.com/political beatdown. We do an exclusive after show there as well. We don't have outside investors here on Political Beatdown or the MeidasTouch network. So one of the ways we grow this independent media platform with researchers, with MeidasTouch.com, keep growing this thing, is through patreon.com/political beatdown. And the exclusive after shows, which feature Michael Cohen stories, are absolutely incredible. Join patreon.com/political beatdown. When we return, I want to talk more about the New York Attorney General case. Want to see if you know when you're going to be testifying. I want to show everybody some more of those deposition clips. I want to talk more about what we're learning about the House vote to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. And then I also want to talk about Donald Trump's speech in Iowa, where he talked about how he'd rather be faced with electrocution instead of being eaten by sharks. He thinks he's running against Obama. It is horrifically embarrassing to our nation. It would be parody, folks, if it wasn't so dangerous. Again, become a member now at patreon.com/political beatdown. And for those of you who are patrons already, put in the comments if you think the content is worth it. So if other people are on the fence or not, let them know about patreon.com/political beatdown. We'll take a quick break, but this is a historic episode. Michael Cohen of Political Beatdown. We'll be right back after this. Heart health and staying healthy, especially when you have a family that you want to be able to spend as much time with as possible, is so important. We all have a heartfelt reason to support our blood pressure. In fact, more than half the U.S. population would benefit from blood pressure support. SuperBeets Heart Chews are an easy and convenient way to support healthy blood pressure, and they promote heart-healthy energy. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in SuperBeets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And with over 30,000 5-star reviews and counting, SuperBeets Heart Chews are having their moment. SuperBeets Heart Chews are incredibly delicious and so much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my SuperBeets Heart Chews each morning, and it's really kickstarted my morning routine, so I have the energy to do my hot takes on the MeidasTouch network. After taking my SuperBeets Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and am ready to take on the day. SuperBeets Heart Chews support healthy circulation, so you not only get blood pressure support, you also get productive, heart-healthy energy without the crash. Support your heart health with SuperBeets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of SuperBeets Heart Chews and a free full-size bag of turmeric chews valued at $25 by going to the website beatdownbeats.com. That's beatdownbeats.com. Get this exclusive offer only at beatdownbeets.com. That's beatdownbeats.com.
And now let's take a quick break to talk about our next partner, Fume. Cold turkey, it may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your wacky neighbor or some sketchy message board. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Now, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. The first time I used Fume, I was shocked at how flavorful and fresh it tasted. Now, it's easy to hold and perfectly balanced and quite honestly, extremely fun to fidget with. The real wood material and sleek design definitely classes it up, and I feel pretty darn cool holding it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Head to tryfume.com and use code BEAT to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code BEAT to save an additional 10% off your order today.
Welcome back. A historic day indeed, Michael Cohen. Here's what we are learning, and here Jake Sherman from Punchbowl News, who's been spot on, says here's what to expect now that Kevin McCarthy has been removed. everyone will now be looking to see if Kevin McCarthy is going to try to run for speaker again. But the 8 no votes that removed him may be too much to overcome. And even if he could, he may not want the job anymore after being shamed like that. But we'll see. And then they'll be jockeying for who the next speaker could be. The Republican caucus is meeting tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's the latest update there. And again, the motion to vacate against Kevin McCarthy prevailed. Kevin McCarthy is no longer Speaker of the House. There's the final vote. We are now without a Speaker of the House because of MAGA Republican chaos. And as I've been saying, the chaos on the floor in the House of Representatives, it's the chaos that we're seeing in New York, Cohen. Cohen, when do you expect to testify?
Sometime next week. Right now, that aspect is still in discussion with my counsel. I do have my own personal things that I have. So we are waiting to come up with a date, but it is certainly within the next 10 days. Let me put it to you that way. But one thing, Ben, I also wanted to raise. We see the gag order now placed on Donald Trump for his actions towards the clerk of the court. And one thing that, again, we hear from all of these geniuses, these pundits, my grandpa used to call them a bunch of Talmud Chachams, right? Bunch of geniuses that think they know everything, that truly don't. Here's the biggest problem that you have. What Trump is actually doing is he wasn't just trying to intimidate the clerk of the court, the person to whom he was making the statements, but also it was a sort of a hidden attempt to intimidate Judge Engoron in his own way. Whether it works or not it's secondary to Donald. This, in his mind, was a way to get to the judge so that the judge knows what it is that he wants. It's a way to get, again, at Attorney General Tish James. It's a way to get to the prosecutors that these are the things that I can do to you. All right. It's truly, it's an incredible thing that he's doing. But the one thing that I constantly try to remind prosecutors, I constantly try to remind the attorney generals and the DAs, there are a ton of witnesses that are expected to testify at these various trials. Now, I am ecstatic that the AGs and the special counsel and the DAs and the prosecutorial lines, that they all have security. They all have police protection, both where they work and then getting to their cars or getting themselves home. And so I could not be happier. But here's somebody who gets left out in the dark. It's all of the witnesses. And do you think every time they show my face on television, yesterday, today, every time my name starts getting mentioned on whether it's CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, it doesn't make a difference, Fox, right? Newsmax, once they invoke my name, and especially the OAN, the Newsmax, and so on, every time they mention my name, it creates for me a rise in activity on my social media, on DMs, on text messaging, and so on, where the only thing that you can take out of the information that's being spewed against you is you're under attack. And that's what Donald is all about. He wants to prevent witnesses from coming in and testifying, or to make them so nervous that they don't say anything that could be harmful to him, which of course is impossible because the information that they have, and obviously you have to tell the truth. This is what he's doing. It's obstruction of justice and it's witness tampering. And while I applaud Judge Engoron for doing what he did in placing the gag order, that gag order should extend to witnesses as well. All right. That to me is the foundation for what is going to happen with these cases, because regardless of how well opening statements go and so, without the witnesses in order to prove the case goes nowhere.
And Cohen, here's what we've learned just happening as well. At the end of the court day, the judge and Goron kicked out all of the journalists from the courtroom, kicked out everybody to speak privately with Attorney General Letitia James and Donald Trump and all of their lawyers. This follows the gag order. And look, I'm sure he's addressing Donald Trump directly in front of Donald Trump's lawyers. And I think we're going to start seeing, as these cases start going to trial, the trial schedule we've been talking about, you know, the March trial before Judge Tanya Chutkin, for example. This one was the first one to go in October, as you have the trial over Donald Trump stealing documents at Mar-a-Lago in May. As you go through this trial schedule, he's becoming more and more unhinged, more untethered from reality, but also more dangerous. And here we're seeing that take place. And it is really, really disturbing to see. Like, and Cohen, I wish you nothing but the best. I mean, what you're going through right now and the attacks you're under because you are testifying truthfully. I mean, it's absurd that anybody should have to go through that. And, you know, when you see how Donald Trump's speaking, though, at these events, did you catch Donald Trump in Iowa, for example? I mean, this Donald Trump Iowa thing is so utterly Donald Trump. I mean, it's the chaos that we see on the floor of the House of Representatives with MAGA. The first clip I want to show you is the chairman of the Iowa Republican Party. I want to show you just so you have a sense of who they are. If we've got this clip, Jeremy, can we play the clip of the chairman of the Iowa Republican Party? Play this clip.
Bureaucrats that are not elected, that are further left than Mao Zedong. That must end, and it starts in Iowa to end it. We're going to end it together. And we will stop at nothing. We will move heaven and earth to take back our country. It starts now. Now.
What an asshole. What a complete and total asshole. You know, the problem is their language is vitriolic. The Democrats' language is that we need to work together. We have issues in this country that can be solved if all parties would work together. That's not to say that they're going to agree on everything or even anything, but at least have the desire to work together. This for them is like Wall Street. They've taken Wall Street and put it into politics. There has to be somebody who wins and somebody who loses. And that's where the vitriol is coming from. The problem is, you know, I see a lot of the comments. It's like, ignore the attacks on you, ignore the comments, ignore the thing. Sure, up until the time that you have a MAGA maniac that ends up showing up. I mean, how many times have we seen that? In fact, if you look at statistics, the saddest part is that we have more gun violence, more mass shootings than we have days in the year already. It's more than one a day. Now, I'm certainly not implying that people are pulling guns on me here in New York City and so on. They're not. But I have people who are screaming out their windows. They want to fight. They want to get out, cursing me out. I'm walking, whether it's with my daughter or my son or my wife, and they're cursing and so on, or I'm by myself. This is absolutely abhorrent behavior. And what it basically shows is that there are a lot of unhinged people in this country that continue on a regular basis to listen to what Donald is saying, and they extract from his insanity. They extract their own insanity and how far they're going to go. Look, if I am testifying is going to be, rest assured, you will be seeing a lot of it on television. It is going to be as crazy as the day that I ended up leaving to go to Otisville, where we were chased not just by helicopters, but by a whole slew of cars. You know, a lot of people, they say, you know, you look so tired. Of course I'm tired. I'm mentally exhausted from the preparation, from the reading, from, you know, the agita that this thing brings on. It's not a fun thing to have to testify, to be on the stand in a case that is going to destroy a 50-year company that was owned by the former president of the United States, who is planning on using all the power, all the levers of power that he has and controls, both domestic and abroad, to use those in order to hurt you. That's who he is. And when people also turn around and they, these smart-ass comments that you start to see, well, you work for him, you deserve what you did. Remember, when I worked for him, he wasn't president of the United States. He was a real estate developer branding guy. And whoever thought that he was going to become the worst version of himself imaginable? Not me, not most people who knew him. All right, none of us thought that this was going to happen. But the second that this became evident, many of us ended up walking away. And yeah, he threw me under the bus. That was my impetus, thank God, 1,000,000 times to get the hell away. I'm certain he must be kicking the ass of whoever it was that told him the smart move is to throw Michael Cohen under the bus. Yeah, that's a real great idea. Now look what's happening. All right. So look, it's exhausting, this whole thing, but I do just, again, always want to thank each and every one of you that have been so supportive, not just for MeidasTouch Network, not just for Political Beatdown, making us the #1 live news show right now on YouTube, for donations, as far as being able to hold Donald accountable for his dirty deeds, for that frivolous $500 million lawsuit that he decided to file against me. Thank you to all of you that are helping. And I want to tell you, he is required, pursuant to court order, to be deposed on Monday, the 9th. All right, by October 9th. I have him for the full day, been preparing with my lawyers a series of questions that are really going to make him look as stupid as he actually is. And with that, I also want to say, because, I never let a good opportunity go without having to give the old two-finger salute. Nobody deserves the two-finger salute more than diaper douchebag Donald. Donald, fuck you and everything that you're doing to this country. Fuck you for what you're doing towards the DOJ, to the court system, to all of those people that are required, as I am, pursuant to subpoena, to testify, to the judges, to the prosecutors, to the AGs, the DAs, to everybody who you are trying to intimidate and harass. On behalf of all of them, here you go, buddy.
Yeah, and I want to show also, Cohen, we've been talking about this MAGA rhetoric, and to your point, you've got the rhetoric from Democrats. You may disagree with some of the Democratic policies. That's fine. Feel free to disagree. But Democrats are saying, how do we work together? How do we advance the interests of Americans? How do we protect Americans' freedoms? How do we come up with specific policies like lowering prescription drug prices and making education accessible and affordable, protecting veterans through things like the PACT Act, bringing jobs here, like energizing the semiconductor industry with the CHIPS Act, like tangible things. MAGA Republicans can't even get a vote to adjourn for the weekend. They don't have enough votes to leave for the weekend. They don't have a speaker, and all they do is try to blame each other. And it's rhetoric like this. At the Iowa event, I'm going to show you quickly some clips of Trump, but this is like their right-wing propaganda network. Like, this is who they are. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. You may have prematurely did that two-finger salute going. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene's
nobody could beat Donald at this point. Sorry, pal.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, before Donald Trump goes out to speak, saying that he thinks that liberal women are too ugly for him, are too hairy for him, and he thinks liberal women look like men to him. Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, who hosts the main right-wing propaganda network. Now, play the clip.
Liberal women tend to be some of the ugliest women I've ever seen. And I'm serious. I mean, zero makeup.
Well,
they take no pride in their, well, they want to be men. They take no pride in their dress, their attire, their makeup, their haircut. Half of them look like men. Hairy armpits, hairy legs. Come on. That is not embracing what it means to be a woman.
That is actually Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. I'm not just saying. And next to Marjorie Taylor Greene is Donald Trump's lawyer. That's Christina Bobb. That's Trump's lawyer. That's Trump's custodian of records, who was the one who lied to the DOJ. Just think about that. Now I want to show you Donald Trump from this event. This is what he's speaking about to his people, right? While Democrats are out there talking about jobs and lowering prescription drug prices, and Democrats are talking about making education accessible, affordable, protecting seniors, looking after students, things like actual things.
And all this guy is doing is parroting Donald Trump's sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic rhetoric. Why? Because that's the meat. That's the meat that they want.
Exactly. And here's what Donald Trump talks about. This is him saying to his supporters who show up how he doesn't look good with the lights, how the lights make him look terrible. Here, play this clip.
You know, we have these strong lights. As we get better and bigger, the lights get much more powerful. But you look like crap on television. I was going to tell my people. I'm telling my people now. I'm talking. This isn't for you. This is for these lights are so powerful. They probably cost a lot of money because we're doing so well. Everyone's sending in lots of but these lights are no good. Number one, you can hardly see the audience. Number two, when you go home to watch it with our great First Lady, how did I look? She said, "You didn't look good. Too much light." These lights are terrible. They're terrible. They look pretty when you're here. You know, it's like lit up like a Christmas tree. By the way, remember Christmas, by the way? We brought back Christmas.
That's it.
Yes, he brought back Christmas. The Grinch brought it back. Could you imagine? Thank God for Donald, because if it wasn't for Donald, Christmas would not exist. I mean, you know, none of the stores would have their Christmas sales. You wouldn't have Santa running around, you know, the streets, banging the thing, collecting money. Thanks to Donald, right? I mean, this guy is so fucking delusional. He's so delusional. Thank God. By the way, everybody needs to thank Donald. We should all send him a nice letter thanking him for creating air. And thank you for allowing the sun to rise and then, and then the sun to set. These are all things that only Donald controls. He is so fucking stupid. The things that come out of his mouth, I'm certain that his ass is jealous. It is the stupidest thing I have ever heard this guy say. And the worst part, again, is that scumbag Marjorie Taylor Greene boyfriend who sat there and made those statements thinking that he's funny, basically trying to parrot Donald Trump. I mean, when somebody says something really stupid, here's a little advice. Don't repeat it.
I want to show you this next clip here. Donald Trump says that he rather suffer electrocution than being eaten by than be eaten by a shark.
I'd rather either one.
But if I'm sitting down and that boat's going down and I'm on top of a battery and the water starts flooding in, I'm getting concerned. But then I look 10 yards to my left and there's a shark over there. So I have a choice of electrocution or shark. You know what I'm going to take? Electrocution. I will take electrocution every single time. Do we agree? I will take electrocution.
And finally,
well,
here he is.
At least he got the pronunciation of the word right on the third try.
Finally, here he is believing that the current administration's the Obama administration, which claims that he built the wall. Play the clip.
And then I build a 40-foot wall, a 50-foot wall, or a 30-foot wall on top. They say that was a renovation. That doesn't count. These people, I'll tell you what they have. I'll tell you, they have a great line of bullshit. That's one thing I can tell. That was a renovation. Like sloppy Chris Christie. Oh, he only built 56 miles of wall because there was some wood laying on the ground. So they call that a renovation. We built almost 500 miles of wall. Even the Obama administration says it in their stats. But we've totally fulfilled.
Yeah, but President Biden, right? I mean, you have MAGA chaos in the House of Representatives. You've got Donald Trump has to have a gag order imposed against him at a civil fraud trial because while testimony is being taken, he's threatening the freaking law clerk of Judge Arthur Engoron. And then you have Trump going to Iowa, where he talks about electrocution and being eaten by sharks, and that he thinks Obama's the president. And where's the legacy freaking media? Where are they? I mean, you know what? There's a reason why this is the #1 YouTube in the world right now, because people know they're being gaslit. People know that legacy media is covering for that fascist traitor for reasons that either they're lazy, it's they're self-interested, that's their gravy train, they're big corporations as well. Whatever it is, they are gaslighting us, and the people have said enough. That's why you have this network. We were #1 in our coverage of the motion to vacate. We're #1 right now on YouTube, and it's thanks to this incredible community. Cohen, I'll give you the last word.
Listen, as I said before, one of the biggest problems that we have right now is we have a runaway mouth with Donald, and who knows what Judge Engoron's gag order is going to do. I want people just to remember that the gag order should be extended. It should not just be towards the clerk. It shouldn't be just towards the DAs and the prosecutors and the judge himself or herself, depending upon which case we're talking about. It should also include, because nobody's really talking about the damage that it's causing to the witnesses. And, you know, while I respect all the folks that are trying to hold Donald accountable, to demonstrate that no one is above the law, that we as a society, we all need to be equal. It's not. All right. They're taking really good care of themselves. They're going to need to start to think about the witnesses before which they turn around. And I said it on CNN, you know, or maybe it was MSNBC, was one or the other. I'm actually doing right after this. I'm doing Ari Melber with Katie Fang, and I hope it's one of the topics. You know, I don't have to put my life in jeopardy or in danger simply because of a subpoena. They have an obligation to not just me, but to all the witnesses. It's something I keep talking about again and again and again. It's the same reason why I brought the lawsuit against the United States government, Trump, Bill Barr, etc., because what they did to me, the unconstitutional remand back to Otisville, my goal is to ensure that that never, ever, ever happens to any other American ever again. And certainly not with these MAGA maniacs that, you know, seem to be popping up all over the place.
A historic episode, a historic day. The House has voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, as 8 Republicans and all Democrats present voted to oust Kevin McCarthy after 269 days as Speaker. The reign of the weakest Speaker of the House in American history is now over, but utter chaos in the House of Representatives because of the MAGA Republicans. I'll show you right now Kevin McCarthy, after he lost the vote, returning to an office that he's about to lose. Play the clip. Goodbye, Kevin. And if you all want to support this show, Political Beatdown, as I mentioned, we don't have outside investors on Political Beatdown. Join us at patreon.com/Political Beatdown. patreon.com/Political Beatdown. And if you're already a patron, in the chat below, you just let people know if you think it's worth it. We have exclusive after show content. Cohen and I were about to do an after show right now. The topics have covered. Cohen shared his experience when he was in prison. Cohen's shared his experience writing his New York Times bestsellers while in prison. Cohen shared why he became a lawyer, his law school years, the years that he worked before Donald Trump. You get to learn more about Michael Cohen.
Hey, Ben, you know what I posted about 2 hours ago on Patreon? I posted a photo the day that they released me from the unconstitutional remand. I put the picture with a little goatee. My hair was a little wild. You know? I just wanted people to see what I looked like.
It's a living, breathing autobiography, and you haven't read this stuff. If you've gotten Cohen's books, which you should get, including Revenge, by the way, which if you want to know the tactics used by Trump, go get Michael Cohen's Revenge, how Donald Trump weaponized the U.S. Department of Justice against his critics. But I assume all of you by now have bought Revenge and you've bought Disloyal. But the Patreon has different kind of more in-depth autobiographical stuff on Cohen that I think is great and fun, and it allows us to support this network and our team here. It's patreon.com/political beatdown. So as soon as the show ends, become a member and we'll have our after show content up within the next hour. We're going to record it right now. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Thank you all so much for making Political Beatdown the #1 YouTube show in the world. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.